This video presents an ecological examination of the theoretical conditions that could support an unclassified large primate, often referred to as Bigfoot or the wood ape in North America. It synthesizes anecdotal reports of the creature's characteristics and behaviors with established principles of primate and large mammal ecology. The analysis indicates that while existence of such a species presents significant challenges to conventional biological understanding, certain ecological niches and behavioral adaptations could, in theory, facilitate its persistence. The report explores potential habitat requirements, inferred travel patterns, and possible food sources, drawing on comparative biological data and patterns observed in online sighting databases. It also critically addresses the inherent difficulties in scientifically confirming an elusive species, emphasizing that confounding factors of human perception and the pervasive influence of folklore. The enduring mystery of Bigfoot. Bigfoot, also known as Sasquatch, stands as a pervasive and enigmatic figure within North American folklore. Consistently described as a colossal, hairy, bipedal humanoid inhabiting remote forested and mountainous regions. Its narrative roots extend deeply into indigenous cultures, where tales of wild men or hairy men have existed long before contemporary reports gained prominence or before they saw me. The term Bigfoot itself entered widespread public consciousness in 1958, following reports of unusually large footprints discovered in California, subsequently popularized by local media. This enduring cultural phenomenon has fueled countless anecdotal sightings and inspired dedicated research efforts by organizations such as Bigfoot Field Researchers Organizations, BFRO, and the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, NAWAC, which actively collect and investigate reports. Despite significant public interest and a substantial body of anecdotal accounts, Bigfoot remains unconfirmed by mainstream science, primarily due to the persistent absence of definitive physical evidence. This video adapts a rigorous scientific approach to assess the ecological plausibility of an unclassified large primate, often referred to as Bigfoot, existing within North American ecosystems. The objective is not to definitively prove or disprove its existence, but rather to construct a theoretical ecological case by analyzing reported characteristics and behaviors against the backdrop of known primate and large mammal ecology. The scope of this analysis is focused on three primary ecological domains: potential habitat requirements and distribution, inferred travel patterns, and possible food sources. This examination relies heavily on principles of comparative biology and draws upon patterns identified within online sighting databases. Furthermore, the report critically addresses the inherent challenges in scientifically confirming such an elusive species and explores alternative explanations for reported sightings, acknowledging the complex interplay between biological possibility and human perception. The behavioral repertoire attributed to Bigfoot is diverse and offers insights into its potential ecological niche. Locomotion. Observers frequently describe a remarkably smooth, long, and fluent bipedal stride, often likened to cross-country skiing or riding a bicycle, accompanied by wide arm swings. A noteworthy aspect of this locomotion is that the step length reportedly remains consistent regardless of whether the animal is moving on level ground or uphill. While primarily bipedal, some accounts indicate incredible speed and grace when moving uphill, suggesting a highly adaptive form of terrestrial movement. Elusive and avoidance. A defining characteristic of reported Bigfoot behavior is its profound elusiveness and consistent avoidance of human detection. Immediate withdrawal upon human awareness is often a common response, with individuals often paralleling human movements while remaining out of sight. The creatures are reported to be highly observant of human equipment, such as camera and guns, taking extra care to avoid exposure. When stationary, they can remain completely motionless to evade detection, a behavior that underscores a sophisticated anti predator or avoidance strategy. Vocalizations. A complex and varied repertoire of sounds is attributed to Bigfoot, including whistling, produced in its throat, moans, howls, hoots, grunts, extremely deep growls, roars, liken that to a lion at the bottom of a 50-gallon drum, and chilling screams. The reported screams are particularly noteworthy for their perceived near human quality, yet possessing an extreme loudness, endurance, and power that cannot be attributed to any known human. Additionally, giggling and laughing and crying sounds have been reported, sometimes in response to specific events. The reliance on vocalizations, especially loud ones, is consistent with a nocturnal species, which may depend more on auditory communications than diurnal primates. Strength and displays. Reports consistently describe legendary upper body strength. This includes the ability to lift and throw large rocks, such as basketball sized stones, with considerable force, and even lift the edges of mobile homes, cars, or trailers. These displays of strength are often employed to intimidate or scare off intruders, sometimes accompanied by tree shaking, pushing over trees, or snags to create noise, or simply by repeatedly breaking large sticks or branches for sound effect. While chest thumping has been reported audibly, the behavior itself has not been directly observed. Social structure and interaction. While the majority of sightings involve solitary individuals, particularly males, which some suggest may be probing new niches, food sources, or mates, there are accounts of multiple individuals being observed together. Interactions with humans are generally characterized by an unaggressive demeanor, with creatures leisurely retreating even when reportedly shot at. There are no documented cases in the past century of Bigfoot deliberately harming a person. Observations suggest that they may react in more relaxed manner to women and children while actively avoiding men, possibly as a response to perceived human body language. Tool use and curiosity. Reports indicate a degree of curiosity about human activities, such as lighted windows in secluded houses, barns with animals, unusual animals in corrals, or loud noises like chainsaws or screaming children. Some accounts describe orderly behaviors, such as stacking rocks and cairns during searches, or just not like tearing apart food caches randomly, but pulling it apart like they're deconstructing it. A particularly remarkable report details fashioning of straws from dead weed stalks to drink from a metal tub, suggesting a rudimentary form of tool use. The practice of leaving gifts, ranging from small piles of stones and dog skulls to handfuls of evergreen shoots or even small live animals, has also been noted, potentially indicating a form of shared food or offering. Swimming ability. Unlike most other higher primates, Bigfoot is reported to be a powerful swimmer. Observations include frog kick locomotion in water, and the creature's sporadic presence on small, otherwise uninhabitable islands off British Columbia. The theoretical ecological viability of a large, unclassified primate in North America hinges on several critical factors, including the capacity of the environment to support its biomass, the availability of suitable habitat, and the presence of adequate food resources. Sustaining a viable population of any large mammal, particularly a primate, necessitates a substantial base of primary productivity within its habitat. Ecological principles dictate that only approximately 10% of the energy transferred between trophic levels is converted into new biomass. This fundamental energy transfer efficiency implies that a large bodied species, positioned higher on the food chain, requires a significantly larger area of productive habitat to support its population. Tropical rainforests, for instance, are among the most productive ecosystems globally, boasting a biomass productivity of 2,000 GC per m squared per year, which allows them to support high primate biomass densities, sometimes reaching 390 kilograms per km squared or even 630 kg per km squared in closed canopy areas. In contrast, temperate forests, while still productive, exhibit lower average productivity, 1250 GC per m squared per year. This difference in productivity directly affects the potential carrying capacity for large or omnivorous primates. The ability of a habitat to support a given primate biomass is strongly correlated with the nutritional quality of leaves, specifically the protein to fiber ratio, which can explain nearly 90% of the variance in primate biomass. For a large, unclassified primate like Bigfoot, estimated to be significantly larger than known great apes, like up to 1,200 pounds and 10 feet tall, the biomass requirements would be substantial. This implies that a relatively low population density would be necessary to avoid exceeding the carrying capacity of North American temperate forests, particularly if its diet includes a significant portion of lower quality plant matter. The presence of large predators, which are typically rare or absent in degraded landscapes, could also influence the biomass density of large herbivores. Reported Bigfoot sightings are not randomly distributed across North America. They tend to concentrate in specific environmental context, primarily remote, heavily forested, and often mountainous regions. These areas offer the necessary concealment, resource availability, and reduced human interference that would be critical for an elusive, large-bodied primate. Pacific Northwest temperate rainforest. This region, stretching along the west coast of Alaska, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, represents the largest temperate rainforest on Earth. It is characterized by a moderate climate with substantial annual precipitation, 300 to 400 centimeters. And it is renowned for its immense biomass, supporting some of the world's largest and tallest tree species, including Sitka spruce, western hemlock, coast redwood, and Douglas fir. The lush understory, dense epiphytes, and mosses provide extensive cover. This ecosystem is highly productive, supporting diverse wildlife, including large mammals like black bears, grizzlies further north, wolves and deer, and abundant salmon populations. The concentration of biomass and the rugged, often inaccessible terrain of the Pacific Northwest align with the high density of Bigfoot sightings, particularly in the Cascade Mountains in Washington and the Sierra Nevada Mountains in California. This environment offers ample food resources and the necessary concealment for a large, reclusive creature. The Appalachian Mountain temperate forests. The Appalachian Mountains extend across the eastern United States, also exhibit a high density of Bigfoot sightings. This region is characterized by a diverse temperate forest ecosystem with evergreen spruce and fir dominating higher elevations and deciduous cove forests prevalent at lower altitudes. The flora includes a multitude of tree species such as red spruce, balsam fir, sugar maple, various oaks and hemlock, alongside abundant ferns, mosses, and grasses. The Appalachian temperate rainforest is noted for its exceptional biodiversity, particularly in fungi, salamanders, and land snails. The varied topography, from dense forest to mountainous peaks, provides a mosaic of potential habitats. The presence of historic folklore, such as the Cherokee tales of Sul Kala, the slant-eyed giants residing in the Appalachians, further links this region to the Bigfoot narrative. The Wawachi Mountain Forests. Located primarily in Oklahoma and Arkansas, the Wawachi Mountains are another reported hotspot for wood ape sightings, particularly by organizations like NAWAC. This ancient mountain range is characterized by a unique geology of folded sedimentary rocks and distinctive naviculite ridges. The forests here are dominated by shortleaf pine and a variety of hardwoods, including white and red oaks, hickory, and maple. The region supports diverse wildlife, including deer, turkey, black bears, and features bottomland hardwood forests with cypress, tupelo sloths, some with very large trees. The combination of dense forest, rugged terrain, and historical sightings make this a plausible area for large elusive species, particularly given the focus of NAWAC research in this ecosystem. Florida swamps and forests. While seemingly an outlier due to its lack of mountains, Florida also records a high density of Bigfoot sightings, often associated with the skunk ape variant. The state's dense wilderness, including swamps and extensive forests, provide ample opportunity for concealment and misdirection. These areas, particularly protected natural areas, offer the necessary cover and resources despite the different environmental conditions compared to mountainous regions. The Florida Wildlife Corridor Law, for instance, protects vast interconnected natural areas vital for species like the Florida panther, illustrating the importance of such habitats for wide-ranging mammals. The consistent association of sightings with remote, dense, and often protected natural areas across diverse North American biomes suggests that if such a creature exists, its habitat selection prioritizes concealment and resource availability over specific climatic conditions, demonstrating a remarkable adaptability to varied forest types. As a short aside, while doing research and gathering notes for this video, I was going back and forth with Grok, and I asked Grok if he had 10 trail cams, where would he put those if I wanted to catch video or images of Bigfoot? And he put a pen in the middle of the Mark Twain National Forest north of Hannibal, Missouri, and said distribute all 10 of them here for the best chance. So, interesting aside. The movement patterns of a large elusive primate would be crucial for its survival, allowing it to access dispersed resources, avoid detection, and maintain genetic diversity within a potentially low-density population. Large mammals typically exhibit seasonal patterns of habitat use, driven by variations in food and shelter availability, and often overlooked in annual surveys. The influence of water sources. Water availability is a critical limiting factor for terrestrial mammals, significantly influencing their distribution, abundance, and movement patterns. Large mammals, such as zebras, undertake extensive migrations covering hundreds of miles in search of food and water, especially during dry seasons when surface water bodies become scarce. Similarly, a large primate would likely rely on consistent access to water sources for drinking, bathing, and potentially foraging. The congregation of species around water holes, however, can also increase predation risk. Therefore, an elusive primate would likely utilize water sources strategically, potentially favoring those that offer concealment or are less frequented by humans. Elevation changes and tactical movement. Large mammals, including primates, adjust their movements in response to environmental heterogeneity and perceived risks. Chimpanzees, for example, demonstrate tactical use of high elevation in territorial context, favoring elevated areas when traveling towards conflict zones to gather information about rivals and assess risk. This behavior allows for early detection of threats and low-risk maneuvers. For a large unclassified primate seeking to avoid human detection, the strategic use of mountainous terrain and varied elevations would be a significant advantage. Higher elevations can offer less productive landscapes but provide structural changes in flora that might offer different types of cover or resources. The ability to move efficiently across varied elevations, as suggested by consistent step length, regardless of incline, would further enhance its capacity for evasion and resource acquisition. Wildlife corridors and habitat connectivity. The ability of wide-ranging species to move across their habitat is vital for their survival, allowing access to food, mates, and suitable areas as environmental conditions change. Habitat fragmentation due to human development, such as roads and settlements, poses a significant threat to large mammals, hindering their dispersal and increasing wildlife vehicle collisions. Wildlife corridors, which are contiguous, unfragmented core habitats, mitigate these adverse effects by connecting landscapes. Many states in North America have recognized the importance of these corridors, enacting legislation and investing in wildlife crossings to facilitate safe passage for species like deer, elk, and black bears. For a large, low density primate, the existence and utilization of such natural or protected corridors would be essential for maintaining genetic integrity, allowing young animals to disperse and enabling the populations to adapt to environmental shifts, including climate change. The concentration of Bigfoot sightings in large, contiguous forest blocks, often within or adjacent to protected areas, aligns with the ecological necessity of extensive, connected habitat for wide ranging elusive species. The diet for a large omnivorous primate like Bigfoot would need to be highly adaptable to the seasonal availability of resources in the North American temperate forests. While most great apes are primary herbivores or fungivorous, many large animals in North America, such as black bears, are omnivores. Black bears consume a wide variety of foods, including berries, fruits, sedges, insects, fish, honeycomb, nuts, beech nuts, acorns, hickory nuts, grasses, roots, and blossoms. They also prey on young elk and deer in the spring, and they may scavenge carcasses. This omnivorous strategy allows them to exploit diverse food sources throughout the year. Orangutans, while primarily fruit eaters, also consume leaves, bark, honey, bird eggs, insects, and small vertebrates, demonstrating dietary flexibility when fruit is scarce. A large unclassified primate would likely exhibit similar dietary plasticity, enabling it to thrive across varied American forest types and through seasonal changes. Environmental seasonality significantly constrains energy acquisition for wildlife, making some habitats less suitable at certain times. Species cope by adopting seasonal strategies, such as habitat selection or migration. For a large primate, a diet rich in protein and fiber would be crucial for maintaining biomass. During periods of fruit scarcity, a shift towards lower quality herbs or other plant and animal matter would be expected, similar to gorillas conserving energy by decreasing range and feeding on herbs when fruit is limited. The ability geophagy, the consumption of soil and other earth substances known as geophagy, is practiced by some primates, including orangutans. This behavior is often linked to obtaining essential minerals or neutralizing toxins present in their diet, such as tannins and phenolic acids. If Bigfoot consumes a diet that includes wild plants containing secondary compounds, or if it requires specific minerals not readily available in its primary food sources, geophagy could be a plausible dietary adaptation. The combination of broad omnivorous diet, seasonal adaptability, and potentially specialized foraging behaviors like geophagy would provide a robust ecological foundation for a large primate to persist in a diverse and seasonally fluctuating environments of North America. Behavioral adaptations for elusiveness and survival. The consistent reports of Bigfoot's elusiveness suggest a suite of highly developed behavioral adaptations to avoid human detection, which are critical for the survival of any large, rare species in human dominated landscapes. Primates have evolved numerous strategies to minimize predation risk, including active defense concealment, vigilance, flight, and alarm calls. Group living itself can be an anti-predator strategy. For a large unclassified primate, human avoidance would function as a primary anti-predator mechanism. The reported immediate withdrawal upon human detection, often while paralleling human movements from a distance, is a classic flight response. The ability to remain completely motionless to escape detection further underscores a highly refined concealment strategy. The reported observation of human equipment, such as guns and cameras, and the subsequent increased caution to avoid exposure indicates a sophisticated level of cognitive awareness regarding potential threats. This behavior aligns with observations of chimpanzees, who exhibit various adaptive behaviors in response to perceived risks in anthropogenic environments, including increased group cohesiveness and vigilance, reduced vocalizations, and even nocturnal foraging to avoid detection by farmers. The use of strength displays, such as throwing rocks or pushing over trees to scare off intruders without direct aggression, could be interpreted as a form of mobbing or territorial defense mechanism that minimizes direct conflict, a strategy observed in larger primates. The reported unaggressive nature, even when shot at, and tendency to retreat leisurely suggest a strong ingrained avoidance response rather than confrontational behavior, which is advantageous for a low density species. For an elusive species, heightened sensory capabilities are paramount for survival. Non human primates generally possess excellent visual acuity and binocular vision, enabling them to detect predators and navigate complex 3D forest environments, judging depth and distance effectively. While human vision is highly developed, a primate adapted to dense, low light conditions might possess superior night vision or the ability to detect subtle movements. Beyond vision, other senses would be critical. The reported reliance on vocalizations, especially complex and loud ones, suggests a species that operates significantly in low visibility conditions, such as at night or in dense foliage, where auditory communication is more effective. The ability to detect fear odor in gorillas often after encounters with leopards suggests that olfaction also might play a role in predator avoidance and environmental awareness for large primates. For Bigfoot, an acute sense of smell, similar to black bears, which can detect food sources for over 2 miles away, would be invaluable for foraging and detecting threats. The combination of enhanced vision, hearing, and olfaction would allow a large primate to maintain a significant distance from humans and potential threats, contributing to its extreme elusiveness. Many reported Bigfoot encounters occur during early morning, dusk, or nighttime hours. This pattern aligns with the nocturnal or crepuscular activity cycle, which offers several advantages for an elusive large mammal. Low light conditions provide natural cover, making it easier for certain creatures to remain hidden while moving. Reduced human activity during these times mean wilderness areas are mostly deserted, allowing cryptids to roam more safely. Increased wildlife activity at dusk can also mean more prey animals are active, providing foraging opportunities. While visual confirmation becomes more difficult for humans at night, it's an excellent time for capturing auditory evidence, such as calls, tree knocks, or strange vocalizations, which are frequently reported for Bigfoot. The preference for cooler temperatures, as suggested by some researchers, can also contribute to increased activity during cooler parts of the day or year, such as fall or winter. This shift in activity patterns away from peak human presence is a common adaptive strategy for large mammals in human-dominated landscapes. Large primates typically exhibit low reproductive rates, characterized by long gestation periods, single births, and extended periods of parental care. For instance, female gorillas reproduce only once every 4 to 6 years, and orangutans give birth about every 3 to 5 years. This slow reproductive cycle makes primate populations highly vulnerable to decline and significantly impedes their ability to recover from population decreases. If Bigfoot were a real species, its large size and presumed long lifespan would likely correlate to a similarly low reproductive rate. Such a characteristic would mean that even small population declines due to habitat loss, human encounters, or disease could have devastating long-term impacts on its viability. Furthermore, a low population density necessitated by the biomass requirements of a large primate in temperate forests, combined with a slow reproductive rate, would make scientific detection and study exceptionally challenging. The inherent difficulty in finding and observing a species with such life history traits would contribute significantly to its perceived elusiveness and lack of confirmed science. Challenges to scientific confirmation and alternate explanations. Despite the compelling nature of anecdotal reports and the theoretical ecological plausibility of a large unclassified primate, several significant challenges hinder its scientific confirmation, and alternate explanations often account for reported sightings. The most substantial impediment to scientific recognition of Bigfoot is the persistent absence of definitive, verifiable physical evidence. While numerous alleged pieces of evidence exist, including photographs, videos, audio recordings, hair samples, and cast of large footprints, these have consistently proven to be either inconclusive, attributable to known animals, or outright hoaxes. For example, many large tracks attributed to Bigfoot have been identifiable as double prints from bears, where a bear's hind paw overlaps with the front paw, creating a human like impression. Similarly, hair samples frequently belong to known species like deer or bears. An alleged scat is traced back to other wildlife. The few instances of purported high quality photographic or video evidence, such as the Patterson Gimlin film, are often subject to intense scrutiny and debate regarding their authenticity, with some analysis suggesting they depict misidentified animals or hoaxes. The lack of a body, bones, or irrefutable DNA evidence from a known unclassified primate remains their critical missing link for scientific validation. And just a little point there, that in order for it to be a recognized species, they need to have a dead body at the Natural History Museum here in the United States. That's just how it is. If they don't have a dead body, it's not recognized. It's just a known fact. A significant portion of Bigfoot sightings can be attributed to human psychological and environmental factors that lead to misinterpretation. The phenomenon of pareidolia, where humans perceive familiar patterns like faces or figures in random stimuli, can cause individuals to see Sasquatch in the shadows of dense forest or in blurry images. In remote forested areas, especially under low light conditions or with low visibility, such as fog, it is easy to misidentify known wildlife such as bears, elk, or other large mammals. A bear standing upright, for instance, can be mistaken for a bipedal creature, and their tracks can resemble human footprints. Unfamiliar sounds, such as the calls of coyotes or owls, can be misinterpreted as Bigfoot vocalizations. Furthermore, factors like mass hysteria and social influence can amplify reports. Popular stories and media coverage can lead to waves of sightings as people become more inclined to believe they have experienced something similar. The element of surprise, shock, or fright during an unexpected encounter can also impair an individual's ability to accurately perceive and record details, contributing to poor quality of many alleged photographic or video evidences. The Bigfoot phenomenon is deeply intertwined with both deliberate hoaxes and long-standing folklore traditions. The term Bigfoot itself originated from a series of large footprints discovered in 1958, which were later revealed to be a prank. Throughout history, individuals have fabricated evidence contributing to the skepticism surrounding genuine reports. Beyond deliberate deception, the concept of a wild man of the woods, or hairy man, is a recurring motif in European folklore and indigenous cultures worldwide, predating modern Bigfoot narratives. These cultural archetypes can influence how people interpret ambiguous sightings, shaping their perceptions to fit pre-existing narrative. The overlap between folklore and alleged sightings makes it challenging to disentangle genuine, anomalous experiences from cultural expectations. Even if a large, unclassified primate existed, its scientific confirmation would be exceptionally difficult to its presumed rarity and elusiveness. Large mammals that are naturally rare, found at low densities, and are more difficult to encounter repeatedly, especially nocturnal species, pose significant challenges to traditional survey methods. Indirect evidence, such as feces, footprint, hair samples, and calls, is often used for surveying such animals, but these require rigorous verification to rule out known species. The reported behaviors of Bigfoot, immediate withdrawal, observation of human equipment, and movement away from people make direct observation and close range photography or video capture extremely rare or difficult. Most reported sightings are brief and fleeting, often occurring in situations where a camera is not readily available, such as from moving vehicles. The combination of low population density, wide ranging movements, and sophisticated avoidance strategies creates a natural barrier to scientific study, contributing to a persistent lack of conclusive evidence. In conclusion, this ecological assessment, based on reported characteristics and established biological principles, constructs a theoretical case for the plausibility of an unclassified large primate in North America. The analysis indicates that if such a creature were to exist, its survival would necessitate a delicate balance of specific ecological conditions and highly evolved behavioral adaptations. From an ecological standpoint, the vast, high biomass temperate rainforest of the Pacific Northwest, the diverse Appalachian and Ouachita mountain ranges, and even the dense protected wetlands of Florida could theoretically provide sufficient primary productivity and concealment to support a large omnivorous primate, albeit likely at very low population densities. The creature's reported size, while significantly larger than extant great apes, finds a conceptual analog in the extinct Gigantopithecus blacki, suggesting a biological precedent for a primate of such scale. Its inferred travel patterns, influenced by seasonal resource availability, water sources, and tactical use of varied terrain, align with the movement ecology of other wide-ranging large mammals. A broad, adaptable, omnivorous diet, potentially including geophagy, would be essential for navigating the seasonal fluctuations of North American ecosystems. Crucially, the reported behaviors of Bigfoot, extreme elusiveness, sophisticated human avoidance strategies, reliance on complex vocalizations, and potentially nocturnal or evening activity are consistent with the adaptive mechanisms required for a rare, large-bodied species to persist undetected in landscapes increasingly influenced by human presence. These behaviors represent a highly effective anti-detection strategy, allowing the creature to exploit its environment while minimizing encounters. However, the persistent lack of definitive physical evidence remains the paramount challenge to scientific confirmation. While ecological conditions and behavioral adaptations can explain how such a creature might exist undetected, the absence of irrefutable biological samples, coupled with the prevalence of misdirection, perceptual biases, and outright hoaxes, prevents its acceptance within mainstream science. The inherent difficulties of surveying rare, elusive species further compound this challenge, making conclusive evidence exceptionally hard to obtain. In conclusion, while the ecological framework can outline the conditions under which a large unclassified primate could theoretically survive in North America, the scientific method demands tangible, verifiable evidence. Until such evidence is presented and rigorously scrutinized, Bigfoot remains a compelling enigma. I can't talk. Enigma. Yes, it remains an enigma, like pronouncing such words. A testament to the enduring power of folklore and the vast unexplored corners of our natural world.